Well, here we are. This is the day we've been waiting for a long time. We have Les Boechrist with us here tonight, and we're going to hear, I'm just going to answer just a couple questions and see what we can pull out of him about his life and things. And here's some of the children that have come from Les Boechrist. Over here we have Stephen, 13 now. We have over here Stefana, who's 11. Down to Christina, and Christian, and Joanna. And over here on Granddaddy's lap now is John Wesley.
Little John.
Johnny.
My little John Wayne.
Johnny, give Granddaddy a kiss. Good boy.
Good boy.
Oh, he's such a sweetie.
That was sweet.
Oh, he's a sweetie.
What happened?
He likes to blow out candles. Okay, Les, well, I heard that you wanted to have some opening comments.
Yeah, and I want kids especially listen to that and always remember that, okay? Long after I'm gone, okay? That something that I know and I can pass on to you, that and every day to thank God for it, that you are born right here in a good old US of A, okay? The best country in the world. Believe me, I know it, okay? And of course, y'all ought to know it by now when you see all the kind of movies and everything about other countries. This may not be perfect, our government may not be perfect, but nevertheless, this is the best there is. So, thank God for it that He let you born in this country.
Amen.
And enjoy wonderful freedom of what we have, okay? And it's very important that all your life, no matter where you go, where you are, what happened to you, always remember that, okay?
Amen.
And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. There's a lot of people that they always badmouthing it in this country and all that. And yeah, it's not perfect. Our government is not perfect. There's people, bad people. There's good people. But no matter where you go, you will find that. No matter what part of the world you go in, you will find that. But when it comes to our government and our society, our freedom, and our democracy, we have the best there is, okay? So when you grow up, remember that, okay? And always thank God for it, that He let you be born here and enjoy this freedom, okay?
Amen. Les, when you were growing up there in Hungary, what did you think of America? What was America to you when you were growing up?
Well, at that time, America was always the one that everybody wanted to go to.
Really, you heard about it all the time?
Oh yeah, well, regardless what, of course I grew up under a communism, and but it doesn't matter what they're teaching, you know, they cannot twist the truth enough, you know, it's always there.
Right.
And so there's a lot of them that never heard of anything else, you know, that a lot of them believed that yeah, communism is the best and all that, but I never did because I love freedom.
So even as a child, it was America to you was something that was lifted up as something highly that you desired and thought about.
Well, yeah, well, besides, I had an uncle in Canada who came home.
Okay. What's his name?
His name was Charles. That was on my mother's side there. Well, actually, it was my grandma's brother, okay, on my mama's side, okay.
Okay.
Who came out to Canada either early on when World War II broke out, or maybe even before. I don't know exactly. But anyway, so. And then when he was back home, you know, me and him had a lot of good visits there.
I see, okay.
And so
I see.
I got enough information from him, although he was from Canada, But United States was, you know, he knew all about United States.
Right, interesting.
So I had a little input from him, you know,
Okay.
what it's like over here.
I see. Now, what do you think your earliest memory is? Anything in your life? What's the earliest thing you can remember?
Oh Lord, I would have to go back to my after that experience for that, because all that stuff I didn't remember it before that.
That's okay. What was however you got it, what was your earliest memory?
My earliest memory, well, actually a lot of it is go back to when World War II was about to break out,
Okay.
which I was only about 3-4
Right.
years old.
Right.
And
You were born in what year?
I was born in 1937,
Right.
and then of course my dad was drafted
Mm-hmm.
because Germany ran over Hungary and all those small European countries there in
Right.
about 3 weeks, and took every little country there without firing a shot.
Right. Okay.
And what they did with the Hungarian army is, and the people that they drafted into the Hungarian army, the Germans, they put them out on the Russian front to
Right.
fight the Russians.
Right.
Which, you know, they didn't want the Germans to die there. They wanted Hungarians and Czechs and whatever,
Right.
you know, which it was in their power because they was giving orders to them, you know,
Right. To do that. Yeah.
to do that. So they didn't, my dad or any other soldier, they are soldiers and they have to do what they have to do, obey the orders.
So how old were you when your dad was drafted?
Oh, I was.
Somewhere around 4 years old or so.
I might have been only about 2 years old because
Okay.
my dad was drafted early, probably about like 1939. I was
Okay.
probably only about 2 years old, but he came home for leave, you know, every
Okay.
now and then. And in 1941, I believe it was 1941, when
Is
he
this
came
Is
home.
this a picture of your dad here?
This is a picture of my dad, the one that is laying down with a machine gun there, and 2 of his buddies there.
And what's your father's name?
His name is Karoly.
Okay.
It's like Charles,
Okay.
okay?
Okay.
And so was his daddy's name was Karoly.
Okay.
So he's like a junior of Bokros Karoly,
Okay, I see.
okay? Anyway, he's laying there with that machine gun that he was using during World War II, I guess.
Now, did the Hungarians continue to wear Hungarian
They
uniforms?
continued to wear the Hungarian uniforms. Apparently, the Germans didn't want to spend the money
Okay,
to
right,
give
sure.
him any
German uniforms.
German uniforms. So,
Right.
but they was under the German commands.
Okay. Yeah. And then over here, we have, this is your mother.
Well, now, yeah, that's a little bit earlier picture there. I probably was like, I would say a year and a half old.
Like John
a year
Wesley's
old or
age here.
something like that, yeah. Now in that picture there, I believe right after that, or prior to that, of that time there, I don't know exactly, but my mom was telling me that I had tuberculosis.
You did?
Oh yes,
Okay.
big times. I almost died. I mean, they was waiting for me to just die because there was no cure for tuberculosis at
Sure.
that time.
Yeah.
So I was just laying in a bed there for a
Wow.
long time. I believe it was right after that, when that picture was taken there, that I had TB.
Okay. Wow.
And so somehow I came out of it because they didn't think I would live. But, well, I guess I did.
I guess you did.
I came out of
And
it.
what's your mother's?
and
What was your mother's name?
My mom's name is Ilona.
Okay.
Which is like
And-
Helen.
Well, I don't know what the translation it is in
And do you think that's her wedding dress that she's wearing for this special picture?
this one.
Yeah. Do you think it's?
No,
her?
this is a Junjaspata costume,
Okay.
kind of dress they wear, and the headscarf. That's what they usually wear when they go to church.
Okay. Okay.
You know, that's their custom.
This would be a customary dress right
Yes, yes.
there. Okay.
That's the way they dressed in Junior Sparta at that time.
And the little boys wore these kind of outfits right here too.
Well, that was boys or girls. You know, when they babies, they throw anything on them.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
So I guess I wind up with a skirt.
In those days, even in America, little boys wore dresses.
Yeah.
Back to the 1941, there when my dad came back for a leave from the army. It wasn't a very long time, but of course he was in uniform and all that, and I don't think he stayed very long. He probably was there a couple of weeks or whatever.
Okay.
He had to go back,
Right
report back. And that's the last time I seen my dad before he showed up in 1947 after we thought he was dead.
After leave, that was the
Yeah.
last time.
After that, when he left, of course, that night,
You were talking about when your dad left for leave there.
yeah, and I remember the night whenever he was saying goodbye, I was already in bed, and I heard him talking, him and my mom, of course was crying, and then of course they thought I was asleep, but I always remember that he came over just before he left and kissed me on the cheek on this side because I was laying in the bed on my left hand side there.
Okay.
And I never did let him know. I wish I let him know that I was awake, but I never did let him know.
Yeah.
Let him know that
He probably preferred it that
I
way.
was awake. So anyway, so that's the last time I seen him until now this was in I believe it was 1941 or 42. I don't know exactly. But anyway, I didn't see him until 1947 when he came home, and throughout those years we never knew what happened to him.
Right.
He was just MIA, missing in action.
Right.
So we didn't know if he died. We just assumed that he was dead, you know.
Right. Right.
Because there's a lot of people that died in World War II that
Sure.
they never did find them, you know, or got captured by the Russians, taken to Siberia, and you never heard from them,
Right.
for sure. But anyway, so anyway, after that, of course, my mom was having a very hard time, you know, it was 3 kids.
Right.
I was the oldest, and then, which I was, what, about 4 years old, or 5, maybe I was 5, I don't know. And then my sister is 2 years younger, which was about either 2 or 3 years old,
And what's her name?
Marika.
Okay.
And then my oldest sister. And then Julie, that was also 2 years younger than she was.
Okay.
So that was about, I must have been 5 and a half, 6, I don't know.
Right.
I just don't know
Right.
exactly, but I believe it was 1941 or 42. But anyway, after that, of course, my mom with the 3 kids was having a very hard time.
Hard days.
In the whole town, there was no man except old men, you know, that my grandpas.
Right. And your grandpa was still living?
Both of my grandpas, well,
Right.
my step-grandpa on my mother's side,
Right.
and then my grandpa on my dad's side,
Right. Okay.
that they was living and helping out, and they're the one that was helping women in the town and
And
all
what are
that.
both their names?
Okay, my grandpa's name was also Karoy,
Mm-hmm.
Bokros Karoy, or Karoy Bokros in English, I guess. And same name as my dad. And then my other grandpa, who was my step-grandpa, that was my grandma's on my mother's side,
Mhm.
husband. Well, he married my grandma because my grandpa, my mom's dad, died in World War I
Okay.
in 1914, and then we got a little card on that,
Okay.
official, thing that they sent to my grandma that he died in World War I in 1914.
Okay.
Well, my mom was born in 1912, so
Okay.
she was only 2 years old, so she never knew
Yeah.
her dad or my grandpa.
Right.
And after that, my grandma, I don't know what year, I don't know the years or how long my grandma went single before she married
Mm-hmm.
my grandpa. The only one that I knew was my grandpa.
Right.
And so
And what was his name?
his name was Lajos. Well, his original name was, let's see, his last name was Bognar Lajos.
Okay.
Lajos Bognar. Bognar is Bognar.
Okay.
Okay, now you got it.
Okay.
I didn't think I could remember it.
Very good.
You didn't either, did you?
Yeah, that's right.
But anyway, so he married my grandma after my other grandpa died. And so that's the only one where, as I was growing up, and I really liked him because he was a good grandpa, you
Mhm.
know. He always liked to play with me and then did things with me, you
That's
know,
nice. Mm-hmm.
that my other grandpa didn't have time for. He was always busier.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so as I was growing up, that's a grandpa I knew.
And what was the other grandpa's name?
The other grandpa's name was same as my dad's name, Karo Bokros,
Okay.
Bokros Karo, which is same as my dad's name,
Okay.
Bokros Karo.
Does it mean Carl or Charles?
Well, in English means Charles.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
In English, Karo means Charles. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So then your father went off to war, was drafted. Your mother.
Well, he was already drafted. He just came home for
Right,
visit
came
at
home
that
for
time.
leave.
So I don't know exactly when he was drafted, but he was in the army for years and years.
And you
know, when
didn't hear
Hitler
a
took him
thing?
in.
You didn't hear a thing from him. Never letters
Mm-mm.
came or nothing.
Nothing, no communication of any kind.
Mhm.
We had no idea whether he got the first bullet or he was still alive or what. I
Right.
did not know.
Can you remember your mother talking about her or thinking about him? Or
Well, I remember my mom always at night, as soon as she put us to bed, she goes to this bedroom window, which it was facing east,
okay.
and east is where the war was on the Russian front was.
Okay. Okay.
And there, every night, you see all these continuous flashes of
I see.
artilleries, you know.
I see.
And she used to cry there and pray there every
Mm.
night. She was praying for my dad to come back.
Mm.
And so I guess maybe that's what got him back.
Amen.
I don't know.
Amen.
But anyway, I felt so sorry for her because she was just crying every night there, you know, and not knowing whether he's dead or alive. But she just never gave up on him,
Mhm.
you know. She just knew that he was alive.
So then, we'll just following that line a little bit. What did your father do during those years? You can tell us about how he was taken and all the kind of escape things that he went
Oh,
through.
you
there.
mean what stories he told us that he was doing in the army or
Mhm.
what? Well, he was the German troops controlled him, took them, and like I said, they put him on the Russian front. So they was
Right.
pretty busy fighting a war,
Right.
fighting the Russians on the Russian front.
Right. Right.
Which, you know, Hungarians didn't mind to do that anyway.
Exactly.
Because
Right.
Russians was never a favorite of our people, you know.
Right. Right.
I mean, look like my whole family history, it's all about fighting Russians.
Fighting the
you know.
Russians. Okay.
In World War One, well, my grandpa that died
Mm-hmm.
on my mother's side, he was fighting the Russians.
Mm-hmm.
And my two grandpas wind up in prison, captured by the Russians after during World War One.
Mm-hmm.
And one that my dad's daddy, my grandpa, he spent I believe 16 years in Russian prison in Siberia.
Siberia. Yeah.
And then my step grandpa, the one I was telling
Right.
you about, my step grandpa, my mom's second husband, my grandma's second husband, he spent 17 years in Russian prison after
Mhm.
World War One
Okay.
in Siberia.
Wow.
They was both in Siberia, so they both came home with some toes just frozen off and all that. You know, they were telling some terrible stories about it.
I see.
But you know, what
Hard
happened-
labor and all that kind of
Oh
thing.
yeah, hard labor, and they wouldn't give them anything to eat. They used to have to steal food from the pigs. That was a lot better than what they fed them
That's what
with.
they said.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah, that was good food
I see.
to what they was giving them. You know,
That's good
so they just
swine.
let them starve.
Wow.
But anyway, but of course Siberia is a cold climate.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And anyway, they when they came home, of course during World War II they was already home. You know, they came home years before that. And so during World War II, they're the one in that town now because there wasn't very many people that could speak Russian,
Right.
but they did.
They learned
They
it
had
up
plenty
there.
of time to
To learn
perfectly speak Russian language.
Russian. Okay.
So they was interpreters.
And they also spoke German too.
Well, they spoke a little bit of German,
Okay.
but not much.
Not
See,
like Russian.
they didn't have nothing to do with the Germans.
Okay. Okay.
Because Germany, you know, they was in World War One too, but Hungary, a Hungarian Austrian empire,
Mm-hmm.
you know, was fighting the Russian
Right.
empire.
Okay. Okay.
So that's how they were captured. The Germans was really not directly involved, although they was in a war too.
Right. Okay.
There was World War.
Right. Now, your father, besides fighting on the Russian front, he finally became a prisoner of war too. Is that right? Captured
But
by
yeah,
the
he
Russians.
was captured by the Russians,
What happened there?
and then what happened is they put him all in a boxcar. The soldiers that the Russians captured, Hungarian soldiers, and of course they knew their destination. It was Siberia.
Mhm.
You know, so so he was.
He heard those stories from his daddy.
He heard enough stories
Right.
from my grandpas,
Right.
you know, that he didn't want to have no part of that.
Right.
So what he did is, with all other guys in a boxcar there, I don't know, they took some part of a boxcar apart to get out some metal parts and things to make knives out of them or what. But anyway, they was able to dig a hole
Mm-hmm.
to the bottom of a boxcar,
Mm-hmm.
the train, with those tools that they made up,
Right.
and then cut a hole big enough that they can slide down so their
Right.
shoulders go through, and then let themselves down under the train while it was moving.
Okay.
Because they were about to go out
Desperate
under
men.
it, you know, when it was stopping, because they be guards outside, you know,
Right.
if a train stopped. So what they did is they dug a hole through the boxcar and then let themselves down
Mm-hmm.
and trying to escape. Well, first time he was going for a while, and then in some outside of little town, he was recaptured
Okay.
by the Russians.
Mm.
So back in another boxcar.
Mm.
He kind of wished he was back in the same boxcar because
Oh,
they
that
had a hole in
worked.
it.
That's right.
But they had to drill another hole in the new
He knew what
boxcar.
to do. Okay.
But anyway, when they was recaptured, where they put him back in the boxcar again, they did the same thing again,
Mhm.
you know. And they did escape that time too, and again, in some little town, around some little town, because that's far away from Hungary, you
Right,
know.
it's a
and-
long ways.
and this time he made some pretty good distance, and then he got picked up again and recaptured and
Okay.
back in the boxcar
Third
again.
time.
Yeah,
Right.
the third time.
Wow.
And but then on the third time when they dug a hole in there, and this time he decided, and they was in a Russian territory, pretty deep by them.
Right.
But this was in an area where there was forest.
Okay.
And this forest is stretches all the way around Hungary from Romania up. It's a Carpathia, or what they call it,
Okay.
that big mountain range there.
Okay. Okay.
Anyway, so my dad was pretty good on geography,
Okay.
so he figured that, well, if I'm in a forest, you know, I can hide.
Okay.
So anyway, so he wasn't about to come out to any populated area, anywhere where he see people.
I see.
This time he wanted to make it, so he was walking home day by day. I don't know. I have no idea how long it took him. Whether it took him 6 months or 2 years, I don't know.
Right.
But anyway, he came all the way around into a forest right outside of our hometown there, you know.
And all those years just surviving in the
And-
wild.
Just surviving in the wild, yeah.
Mhm.
And which he was good at that. He was,
Mhm.
he
How
was
many
very good
years?
at hunting, and
How many years do you think that
So,
was? Do you have any idea?
I have no idea.
But you're not sure the
All
time
I
he was
know is-
captured and all
All I
that.
know is he was gone for 7 years, but I'm sure that he told us, but I
Right.
was just a kid, so I don't remember
Mhm.
what he told us. But it probably took him a couple of years
Right.
to get home, and that's pretty good distance.
Yeah. Right.
And
Right.
then, you
And he
know,
was taking it safe. Yeah.
yeah, and there's no other transportation but walking in a forest. So
Okay.
unless you want to ride a Russian boar.
Yeah. Right. Sure, there was a lot of.
But
those here or
anyway,
something.
so he made it home once he realized that where he was, you know, just outside of our hometown there. But he was afraid to come out because he had no idea, because he had no contact with nobody.
Mhm.
So he had no idea whether war was over or not. So he wasn't not about to take a chance to be recaptured.
Right.
And
Exactly.
he wanted to make sure that, you know, that he can make it home safely.
Mhm.
So he just stayed in there and waiting for somebody or somehow to run into some information that the war is over.
Okay.
Because he didn't know. He had no way of knowing.
Right.
So finally, I think somehow accidentally run into somebody in a forest there or something. And then, of course, that person told him that, hey, the war been over, you know, for a long time.
Okay.
So anyway, so then he came home, and that's when one day during daylight, and my dad showed up.
I see.
Okay,
Wow. What did he look like?
well, he didn't look anything like when he left.
Yeah. Right.
He used to always remember he had black hair combed to the side, you know.
Okay.
Then his hair was gray and everything, you know. And,
Did he have beard and all that?
he was, yeah, he had beard, and you know, I didn't even recognize him,
Mhm.
you know. But anyway, so, but boy, it was a big celebration, you know, that,
Mhm.
because we just buried him, that you know that he was dead.
Right.
You know, we had no idea that
Right.
he was still alive.
Do you remember just how you felt at that time, seeing your daddy was
Oh
home?
yeah, I was really joyous.
Did you see
know,
him, or did someone say your dad's here?
Well, I knew as soon as
All the-
I didn't know what all the commotion was about. but
Okay.
Then find out really quick it was my dad came home. You know, so
Right.
everybody was excited. You know.
Wow. Wow.
So anyway, so after that, things were different because you know he was able to provide for us. You know.
Yeah.
My
Right.
mom was having a hard time.
And he was a farmer.
Yeah, he was a farmer.
Went right back to farming when he got back.
Yeah, he went right back and, you know, worked the land, you know, to produce again and all that. But anyway, So
Yeah.
after that, then of course my mom got pregnant again.
Okay.
So here was another set of kids was coming.
Right.
It was
Round two.
yeah, round two. It was Ilonka, and then Piri, and then Janusz
Giannis,
or
okay.
Johnny,
Okay.
my little brother who was the youngest.
Okay.
Baby Johnny.
And he was born, I believe, in 50, either early 55. I think he was born in 55, yeah. He was
Okay.
only about a year old,
When you
a
left.
little over a year old when I left,
Okay.
yeah.
Now, during those war years, maybe some of the stories that when you were a little one, maybe you can tell us of a time when you were hunting around for bread there in that German tent.
Oh, gee. No, this was, this is the time when, well, it goes back when they rolled that barrel up against our old house, Toby house, Dobie house,
Okay.
and knocked a hole in it, and then
So what happened
we
was
had to
there was
move
a
out of there.
there was a bomb that blew up somewhere else and it rolled
No, I
something.
think it was some stupid Russians that was
Okay.
having fun.
And
you
oh,
know?
I see, and just rolled the barrel
Yeah,
into your
that was a
house.
cement barrel, a huge cement barrel
I see.
with mud on the top of it, and was full of that grape, pressed grape. When
I
they press it
see,
out, what they
okay.
do, they choke it down with mud
Okay.
and let it sit for about 6 to 8 months,
Okay.
and then they make a potting out of it, which is the white lightning.
Oh, the
Okay.
really hard stuff. Okay.
Really good stuff. yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, you take a little shot of that and you can go skiing all
I
day
see,
long.
okay. And then that's what they
Keep
pushed.
you warm.
That's what they pushed.
But anyway,
into
somehow at night, they pushed one of those barrels, and we was there. Our house was on a side of a hill,
Okay.
and each house was up there, stepping up, on the side of a hill, and that barrel rolled up against the side of our house and knocked a hole in it.
Okay. Adobe house.
And yeah, of course, it knocked a hole in the wall, and it wasn't very cold. I mean, it was a very cold house
Right.
anyway,
Right.
because the attic was open, and I
Oh.
think the war already done some damage to it.
Okay.
That we were just barely existing in that thing.
Right. Okay.
And when that happened, we well, for a little while we moved to our wine cellar. I mean, right there that night, my mom, because there was no place else to go at that time, so she took us down there to one of our wine cellars there, and I remember the mud was a foot deep.
Okay.
You
Walk in
know.
there.
Yeah, and I was walking because she had to hold the two girls,
Oh, boy. Wow.
they were so small,
Yeah.
very young, and so she was carrying them, and me, I was just hanging on to my mom's skirt there,
Mm.
and stomping in that mud, trying to keep up with her. And then when we got over there, and I believe next morning, then he went over to my grandma's house on my dad's side,
Mm-hmm.
and then so after that we went into that house
Okay.
to live over there with grandma.
It was a pretty nice house.
Yeah, it was a pretty
Relatively
nice house.
speaking,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was a nice house.
Yeah.
I guess that's the reason the Germans
That's why
picked
the
it,
Germans liked it. Yeah.
because it was a nice house. But at that time, right then, the Germans was not in it, as a
Right.
headquarters, okay?
Right.
That happened later on, because at that time, the Germans, Russians, they was going back and forth. One night we go to bed, and there might be a Germans there. Next morning when we wake up, the Russians are there.
I see.
And then maybe the next night, the Germans was back again, the front was going back and forth.
Right. Right.
So anyway, finally, what happened is, I remember when, here comes all this vehicles and everything, and they was bringing all kind of stuff up there, and radios and all kind of stuff. So what they did, they set up a headquarters in our house.
In your house
in the
there.
living room, yeah.
Yeah. Thank
All
you
the
very
way
much for
around
just
the
coming
wall,
in. They just
yeah.
came in.
And through every window there was cables this thick, coming
Okay.
through. They was out there, you know, reeling out those
Wow.
cables, and that was going out to the different stations or
Right.
to the war zone,
Yeah.
you know. And that's where they directed from.
That was the
So,
command
you know,
post,
That
yeah.
was a command post for Germans.
Okay.
And anyway, so me as a kid, you know, I was kind of enjoying that. Not only that, you know, those Germans always gave us chocolate and candies
Okay.
and stuff, you know. The
Yeah,
Russians wouldn't, but the Germans always did when
Okay.
they was there, you know. So
right.
I kind of liked it. And besides, I wanted to get my hands on. I wanted to sit in that. The general's car was sitting in our front yard inside our gate,
Right.
and it was so beautiful, black,
Convertible.
with one of these walk things, you know, on the side of it.
The side,
convertible, yeah.
okay.
Oh, it was so pretty. I wanted to get in there so bad, but there was always an armed soldier out there guarding that,
Okay.
and he would never let me get close to it, and he would let me get in it. And anyway, so and then they set up an anti-aircraft gun right next to our house on a street there, which it was right up against our window there. And actually it was on our property, not on the street, but it was right on the edge of the street.
Okay. Okay.
So, well, the
This would have
fence
been
was
a
already
huge
gone.
anti-aircraft time.
Yeah.
That's not my favorite
Yeah.
picture of it. Is it?
Well, that's one of those that a guy sits in it, you know, and then he
Brings
brings
it up,
around
too,
and then,
okay.
yeah, it had a long, very long barrel. I
Right.
know that. And what they did, they threw one of these camouflage nets on there, you know, to so
Camouflage over the guns.
Yeah,
Yeah.
over the anti-aircraft gun. And I used to always like to play next to that, and they let me get over there.
Right around the gun.
Right next to the gun or under the gun. there,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
That was fun, you know, for a little kid. Playing in the dirt there, you know, and sitting in an anti-aircraft gun and all that, you know. So I always kind of enjoyed that.
And they liked having the attention of a little kid around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, and like I said, the Germans always give us something, either something to eat or they had this really sweet, it was like molasses or whatever it is, you know, what did
Okay.
they call that? The Germans loved that stuff.
Drink it or food?
No, it's like honey, but it's not honey.
Okay.
It's kind of a
Sorghum?
red-looking syrup, and kind of syrup.
Okay.
some kind,
Okay.
yeah. And the Germans always had that. you
I
know.
see.
They put it on their bread and everything, you know.
Okay. Okay.
And they used to always give us that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so, well, that was, that kind of ended whenever one day I was playing out there,
Okay.
and then here come this airplane, and then got over our house, turned over, it was coming in really low.
An airplane was coming in real low.
Yeah,
Okay.
it came in really low, and then the sucker turned around over our house twice.
Okay. And you were outside playing when this happened?
I was looking right up from anti-aircraft gun there.
Okay. Okay.
And then, of course, these guys, that soldier came over there, was going to get in there. By the time he got over there, the train was gone.
Okay.
I mean, our
Plane was gone.
plane was gone.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he never got in there to shoot at it or anything.
I see.
Didn't have time. And then, just as it left, and after that, these soldiers went crazy. All these German soldiers went crazy there.
Okay.
They had these cranking sirens, you know, and they
Yeah.
sounded the sirens and everything, and I guess they was expecting for that plane to come back,
Okay.
and then was getting ready, you know, and then and then one of the soldiers came over there with an anti-aircraft gun and jumped in it, you know,
Mhm.
and then this other one. And by this time, everybody was gone. I was still sitting there, see what's going on, you know. And then this German soldier, he just ran over when he saw me there.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember he put his gun from his right hand into his left hand there, and then grabbed me by his with his right hand on my shoulder here, and then
Pretty hardly. Hurt.
pretty hard. Yeah, I thought he was going to jerk my whole arm out.
He
Yeah.
did like surprise that he's
No,
was he
he was-
surprised that you were underneath that gun?
Yeah,
He's
he
like,
was.
"Oh, he's there."
He was because everybody else was already.
Your mom and grandma
they
was
went to
already in the-
bunkers and
was already in the
everywhere,
bunker.
hiding because they was expecting that plane to come back.
Right.
You know that he spotted our house.
We're about to have a fight here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he had to run all the way around the house to our front yard there, you know, and then because our little bunker thing was in the middle of the house on the other side,
Okay.
so he came around and he just threw me in there,
Okay.
and right after that, it was this horrible explosion.
You heard that from
You
inside
know,
the bunker.
I mean, it was like something, you know, the whole sky fell in and fell on us, you know.
Wow. You heard that in that bunker, just
Oh
explosion.
yeah.
And who all was in that bunker with you?
Well, my grandma was in there, my mom was in there, my two sisters was in there,
Okay.
and I guess that's all. None of the soldiers got in there with us.
Wow. Okay.
He just
Okay.
threw me in there, and then, you know,
Mm-hmm.
so I'll be in safe place, you know. Anyway, and then of course after that when we dug ourselves out because there was
It's
debris
covered.
everywhere,
Okay.
and we're trying to clear a way out, you know, to be able to crawl out of there and everything.
Mhm.
And that's when I saw some terrible things that just body parts.
Mhm. All those soldiers and
I
everything.
mean, like a
was blown.
shoulder and a head,
Mhm.
and the rest of it was gone, or a leg was cut off of one, or what. It was just terrible because they dropped a bomb right in the center
Of that
of
house.
our house. Yeah,
Blew the
in
house to bits.
Oh, the radios and everything. And our house the wall was about a, what, 1.5 feet, 2 feet thick.
Good thick house. Yeah.
But it was all, these was not adobe, these were
Right.
stone walls,
Right.
okay?
Right.
And it blew it out like it wasn't even there.
Yeah.
It was just a big hole in the middle of our living room.
Wow.
And of course, needless to say, they all died there, you
Right.
know. I mean, well, I think they counted like 18 of them
I see.
that died there, including the one that saved my life.
And you saw him
He
there and
definitely
saved your life.
died. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
And he was
Yeah,
definitely
it was
dead.
terrible. Oh, gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
And you
all-
saw some that were dying at the time, and even the
Well,
whole
there
thing.
were some that it was dying, but I don't think any of them survived it.
Yeah. Okay.
It was a terrible. It was a perfect hit. Whoever
Wow.
did that,
Yeah. Sounds like it.
you know. So after that, that was an indoor house, though. That was our only safety we had.
Mm.
And that's when we permanently moved to the wine cellar.
What about that car? That nice car that was out in front.
Oh, that beautiful black convertible, it was flipped upside down halfway into our neighbor's yard there because it was just a kind of a barbed wire fence there,
Right.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it just pushed that down, and then I remember all the wheels on that thing was kind of turning, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
burning with that black smoke.
Mhm.
You know, rubber was burning
Right.
on there. So that was the end of that.
Wow.
And that anti-aircraft gun,
Right.
it wasn't there anymore. I looked around and it wasn't there. And it flipped all the way across the street, which is about,
see.
what, 50, 60 feet away. On the other side of the street was
Mhm.
laying upside down on the other side of the street there.
Wow.
That because it was right next to the wall, see.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, so it was a bloody mess.
Wow.
So that's when we went to check into the wine cellar, which it was miserable because you know you don't have water to clean with. You know you got a haul of water in there, you know, and
Now coming
no
out of
heating, no light, nothing.
Ginger Spotted now, if you were to come out of the church, the old church there,
Yeah.
where would have been this house if you were to walk out from the church?
Our house, where
This house that
where
got
it was
blown
from,
up. Yeah.
I thought I showed you.
You did. I'm just
Yeah.
for the film here.
Well, as you go up on out of you know from by the school there, and then a church,
So you leave the
and you
church.
just keep going.
You leave the church. You
and
cross
wherever
over
the road splits, that one of it goes to going out of town, you know, And
Towards
the other
Ginges?
one Wise off.
Towards Ginges?
No, that opposite direction.
The opposite direction.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, Ginges is to the east. This is to the west.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And then as you go up, when a road winds off, it's on the left-hand side over there. Gosh, I don't know how far or what, but it's on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
But part of it was still there, that
Yeah.
house.
Okay.
You know, when we was back home.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. But now I think they even took that down.
Okay. Recently here.
So yeah.
Now, what about the wine cellar that we visited? Chuck, Michael, and I all, Tanya, all visited. Was that the wine cellar you lived in? The one with the nice sculptures on it, on the barrels and all that.
Oh, that's not a wine cellar. That's the wine tastery.
But they had some cellars out that way too.
That's a big wine cellar, biggest wine cellar in Europe. No, that wasn't even there at that time.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm talking about wine cellar that there's two hills over there in town, okay, on each side of a town.
Okay.
And both of them have wine cellars holes dug in it, okay?
Okay. Okay.
And then a wine cellar we was in was right there as you go from the church going up, where that little store was. Do you remember where that little store
Yeah,
was?
I do.
Before
Yeah.
you go to the Y, you know? And then anyway, there you turn left or go kind of a Y off to the left.
Okay.
And then there's a bunch of wine cellars around that hillside there.
I see. Okay. Okay.
And that's where we went.
Okay. Okay. I see.
And which it was opposite sides from this hillside that goes around the Ginger spot there.
Okay.
That
Under the
that's
hill.
where on the east side there were. I mean, not the east side, but I guess that would be north side, whatever.
Okay.
But anyway, that's where the Russians was coming in every morning
Over those
there.
hills. Yeah.
And the Germans was dug in on the side where we were in.
The hill is where the big rock is. That's overlooking
No.
Ginger Spot.
No.
Okay. Okay.
That's on the opposite side.
That's where the cellars
But
were.
there
now.
was wine cellars there too. But the wine cellars we were in, opposite side of
where
the
the
town from where that big rock was.
Okay, the opposite side of town from that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that one is just you don't even notice it as being a hill until you go down on that road,
Okay.
and then in the side of it they
You
got
can
these
look
wine
up
cellars
there.
in there.
Okay. Huh. So here's your mom. She's basically trying to make a home out of a wine cellar here.
Well, we was in the old. They
Okay.
was just good enough to take us in. There was already a bunch of people.
Bunch of
in
people
there.
already living in there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That was basically it was a place to go whenever whenever there's a raid,
Yeah.
or
Okay.
something, that during a war, where there's a fighting,
Right.
to hide in there so you won't get shot.
Right. Okay.
And-
Now, were you hungry those days? Remember
we
hunger?
were always hungry.
You were.
There was nothing to eat anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, in that wine cellar there, I don't know how many days or nights we were in there. And, of course, every morning, we kind of tried to get out to the entrance area there. It was kind of flat there,
Okay.
that you can look out on the other side of a hill
Okay.
and watch the show there in the morning after the sun comes up. And the Germans was cutting down the Russians coming over the hill.
see.
They were screaming, hooray, running down a hillside.
The Russians were coming,
Yeah.
yelling hooray. Okay.
Yeah, they was trying to take
Right.
Ginger Spata.
Trying to liberate you.
Well, yeah.
That's what they
yeah,
call it.
Yeah,
Right.
they were trying to liberate us, yeah.
Right.
And anyway, so the Germans just waited till they was about halfway down
I see.
and opened up because they was dug in. The Germans was dug in on the side of that hill where
Okay.
those wine cellars was.
Okay.
And because one morning we woke up, there was a Tiger tank on our opening.
Over your opening.
We couldn't get out.
Okay.
When you came out through the door, and then you look up, and then you're looking at the bottom of a tank.
I see it. Okay.
He didn't know. He didn't know
Right.
he was.
He's just
sitting on
stopped,
that
ready to
road.
shoot
Yeah.
at the. Okay.
That's where he stayed there for a long time.
Wow.
But anyway, so
So what about now? You said that one time there was a tent there, and you would use to sneak bread and things like that.
no. Bread is when before our house was bombed there.
Okay, so
you know,
before then.
and, you know,
Okay.
the Germans was eating at the table there. You see,
Okay.
that was also a general's headquarters.
Right. So these are the big guys right
So
there.
this is where you get good food.
Okay.
Best there was.
Right.
And these was all big dogs. Okay.
Okay.
Those poor guys at the radio there, they didn't get to eat any of that.
Yeah.
They-
Right.
They get to
Right.
eat whatever
Right.
their ration was, you know. But at the table, there was always the, you know, the big dogs, the general and
Yeah.
some big shot Germans, you know.
Right.
And they, of course, they eat and wine and singing and all that stuff, you know, having a ball there.
Right.
You know, and then, yeah, that's when a lot of times I go under the table. I was so small. I was a lot smaller than Christian there, I think.
Uh-huh.
And get under there, and then I'll sneak up on the edge of the table and steal their bread or steal something, whatever they had to eat on the table.
Did they ever catch you?
I know a lot of times I even noticed they caught me all right, and then one of it, that he knew that it disappeared, so he put some more there.
Put some more in there. Yeah.
He just kind of peeked under a table there, you know, and acting like he didn't notice it.
And they knew you lived in that house and that kind of thing.
Well, yeah.
They would have
yeah.
known somewhat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they was good to kids, you know, the Germans. You know.
Mm-hmm. Did you say one time
I
they?
can't complain about the Germans, and I did complain a lot about the Russians because they didn't do the same.
You mentioned one time they were pretending that they were mad at you, and you started crying, or they roughed you up, said, "Hey, you, quit stealing her," and then you started to cry, and they let you go.
That was another Hungarian.
Okay. That was a
No,
story.
you told that
remember
story, then
that
they
one.
said, oh no, have it,
And
have
they gave
it.
you a whole bunch of bread then.
Because you were caught, they caught you red-handed, and you started to cry, and they said, oh, we're just kidding you, here, and they start pushing the bread toward
I don't know
you.
where you are.
You told us that story.
Well, I must have. No, I don't remember them to rough me up or anything. No, they usually give us food.
Okay. Okay, here we are we're talking about, Les, you were mentioning the time when the Russians took over Jinja Spada. You know what kind
Well,
day
of course,
that
that
was?
happened many times, even before this time. Here,
Okay.
before they bombed our house, you know, because our front was going back and
One
forth.
day it's
back
Russian,
and
one
forth.
day it's German.
That's right. So
Okay.
that was going on for months,
Okay.
you know, and then, of course, every time, here's the thing though, every time the Russians was about to come back, then my grandpa, well, both of my grandpas, of course, I was always wondering, because I didn't understand it, I was a little kid, what happened to all the women? You know, they all disappeared, you know. Say, well, the Russians are coming back.
Mm,
It didn't mean nothing to me. I didn't know what they meant by that, you know. Well, so what, you know.
right.
But anyway, so they always hide all the women, you know, the girls, the little girls and everything.
Mm.
I mean, from little girls to old ladies, you know, they all disappeared. I guess they must have gone to those wine cellars or
Right.
somewhere,
Right.
hide them over there when the Russians came back, you know, when it, you know, during the time they stayed, because they did do a lot of raping of
Mm.
women.
The Russians did.
That was, they had a very bad reputation about that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I am not anti-Russian, anti-German, or
Right, right. You're just telling
favorite of
facts.
Germans, or whatever, you know, because they all did enough damage to our country, you know. But when it came to the Germans there, they just didn't do that. They had more discipline, or that discipline was enforced
Mm-hmm.
by their, you know, generals or whatever, because it only happened one occasion with the Germans,
Mm-hmm.
and the Germans made a point of it and had a big, invited a whole town over across the street from us at this rich man's house there,
Okay.
and you know, and all the troops there,
Right.
and a German general there let him know that this is not allowed, okay?
Right.
And so, well, it happened that they claimed that this German soldier raped the Hungarian girl, you know, or
Okay.
something. Anyway, so it was amazing how they handled that.
Okay.
You know, that whenever he was out there as accused, you know, and then of course the general, through the interpreter, telling the whole town and the rest of the German soldiers, you know, all about it, you know, what happened and all that he was found guilty. And so, and we thought it would be going to be a hanging, but it wasn't, because he just took his pistol out and handed it to the guy accused, and told him to go in his office and take care of it.
Wow.
That means that, and right after that, when he went in there, and then after that we heard a shot, and he shot himself.
Wow.
That's how they handled it. So
Never heard about it happening again
yeah, that's the only incident I ever heard of
when the Germans were there.
that the Germans did, you know, in that town.
Now, was this would this have been SS? Would you have seen the Nazi symbol, or do you not really see much of that down there
Where at the
at that time?
this was just regular
Regular troops. So you
troops.
didn't see
know.
Nazi type of. Do you remember seeing the
No,
swastika?
Hitler didn't show up or nothing like that.
What I mean, do you remember these being Nazi troops with the swastika and that kind of thing, or was it before that time?
Well, these was there were some of the SS guys that you know that have those things.
You remember seeing that?
Yeah, there was a
Okay.
couple of them,
Okay.
and some big dogs, you know,
Okay.
and all that. But the rest of it was just regular troops.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
There was no big deal about that,
Huh.
you know. There was no swastikas and all that stuff. It was just a plain. That's just the way they handled that kind of situation.
Right.
You know.
So what turned the war? Did anything happen in particular that made the front actually did Budapest fall, or?
Well, I have no idea because
Okay.
you know I was too far away from it. I
Right.
didn't even know exactly what was going on there. Not unless know what's going on somewhere else.
Yeah,
I
right.
didn't know what the war was about.
Yeah,
you
right.
know, I was just a kid. you
Right.
know,
Exactly. Yeah.
Just watching it happening. You know.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing about wars, that the most suffering is happen to the people that don't even know what's going on. You know, those people that live there, you know, and then the bombs falling out of the sky, and
Right.
you
Right.
know,
Don't even know what
being
this whole
shot
thing's
at,
about.
and they don't even know what the war is about.
Mm.
You know, of course, this is about any war.
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
the way it is. You will find those innocent kids, innocent women. So war just sucks, period.
Mhm. Right.
You
Right.
know, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Right.
And most people that die in wars is usually innocent people.
Mm-hmm.
And I sure didn't know what it was about.
Mm.
You know, I didn't have. I mean, even if somebody explained it to me, it wouldn't have made
Didn't make
anything
any
to
sense,
me,
sure.
you know. That the Russians didn't like the Germans, or the Germans didn't like the Russians. What do I care? You know,
Right.
just leave
So-
us alone.
Exactly.
You know.
So eventually, then the Russians have taken over now, and then shortly after that, you hear about the whole World War II being over. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And so again, these facts don't mean much to you because now you have your whole hometown occupied by Russians.
Yeah.
And
Well, the occupation, they start organizing, you know, in a town and all that, you know,
mhm.
the way they normally do when a communism take over.
little town meetings
Which
were
is-
happening and things
Well,
like
yeah,
that.
they had their town meetings, and then they selected the people who was elected for positions, you know, and all that kind of stuff, you know.
Mhm.
That's not done by Russian troops. Russian troops just went on and keep fighting the Germans somewhere
Okay.
else, you know.
Right.
But they claim, you know, have a big bonfire and all that. Oh, we liberated, you know, and let's celebrate and all that stuff. Well, we never seen it as much of a liberation.
Mhm.
We seen it more of an occupation.
Now, did you see? Did you understand at that age, and or maybe a little later even, of your grandparents and maybe your father once they got back home being part of any kind of resistance to the communists or anything like that? You hear little murmurs going on or that kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, year later when it gets into the 50s there, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course Hungarians never wanted the Russians.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately right after that, things start happening. You know, of course, Stalin took power, you know.
Right. Okay.
And under Stalinism, you hear all kind of nightmare stories.
You were hearing
you know,
those things.
what all the things, and a lot of that was true because from my hometown, many people disappeared just telling a bad joke about
Okay.
communism or Stalin or whatever, you know.
Next thing you know, they're gone.
Next thing you know, there's no trial, no jury, they just disappear.
Hmm.
And then 15, 20 years later, they show up. See,
I see.
well, I got out of a Russian prison, you know.
Wow.
But that's how justice worked. It's on their side,
Right.
you see.
Right.
And they killed thousands and millions of people during Stalin's while Stalin was in power.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That we just didn't hear about it back then.
Right. Right. You're right.
You
It was
know,
very well hid.
I mean, he thought that because something happened that he was distrusting somebody, that he just knew that if somebody had to be close to him, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So to make sure that he gets a guilty one, so he took his whole generals and everything that was his men, hundreds of them, okay, and then he just killed them all.
Right.
Make sure that he killed the right guy.
Start
you know?
fresh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do you remember like little gatherings at your house or anything where your dad was saying, "Okay, we're gonna do this or that"? Or...
Well, yeah, there were some things. Yeah, my dad was involved in that, and of course, I wasn't supposed to know anything about that.
You were just a little boy listening on.
Yeah, and you know, this little short, bald-headed little what they called him. What did they call him? Anyway, this was this shorty guy, and I really I met him accidentally
Okay.
because apparently my dad was hiding him in our well, it was in wine cellar, but it was a lower area of our house, just like if you would go out in a garage there, you know.
Okay.
Where we
Okay.
kept the wine and
A lower
barrels
section of the wine cellar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a cool place, and we kept everything out there. It was a big area, and then of course I used to go in there, and then because I liked that sweet wine, you know,
Okay.
and I knew which
Fresh
barrel
stuff.
it was.
Okay.
No, I'm not the old
Okay,
stuff. One
okay.
is grandpa been keeping, you know,
Okay.
for ages, you know,
Okay.
good stuff. I mean, one is knock you down.
Okay.
And then the way I got acquainted with him is that, well, this was this, I don't know what they call that sniper thing, you know, it shapes like this, you know, and it's got a long stem on it, you know, stick it down in a barrel.
Yeah. You used to
but
take
anyway,
that.
I think that stick it down, climb up on the top of the barrel, you know, and here I am sucking the wine out of there into that thing, you know.
This thing right here.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Made out of wood or gourd of some kind.
That's gore, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a plant of some. It's like a, what do you call that? That yellow-looking stuff.
Squash.
Squash.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like squash. It grows in the vine there, and that big part hanging down. See.
Yeah.
And then whenever it start drying, you know, and they just cut it off and hang it out to dry, and everything on the inside gets dry. And then they go in there with a wire and dig all that stuff out of
Okay.
there.
And it's such you have a straw
And
there.
then cut the top of it off so it's got a hole in the top and a hole in the bottom.
Okay.
And that's what you cipher wine with out of
From
a barrel.
through that. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Okay. Interesting.
well, only in America they don't know what that is. And I'm sure that if you go out to California. But anyway, and then I look up, and there's this little boy-headed guy in a corner of our house there, you know, in that cellar there. And
And this is now you're back into a home when your father is back.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
yeah, and of course, then, you know, he started being nice to me and talking to me and all that, you know, and was trying to tell me, you know, not to tell anybody, you know. And all
Okay. Okay.
that, 'cause it's supposed
And
to,
he was an American?
if I can keep a secret. Well, that's what they called him. Yeah,
They call him the American.
Yeah, that he was like, you know, we heard a lot about CIA and everything, you know, but like if he was one of those CIA agents or somebody, you know, who was, because there was a lot of talk that, you know, a lot of organizing going on, you know, to overthrow a government, you know, the Russian government in Hungary, and you know, and this was being set up, you know, and then one day it's going to happen, you know, but they wanted to organize the people, you know, getting ready for it and all that.
Right.
And so these was a key guys, you know, that was
Helping that out.
happening out.
Yeah. Did he have any equipment up there or anything, or
No, he never had any kind of equipment. He
just
he
there?
was just there, and at night, of course, he goes out of our house there, and then wherever they go meet, you know. Him and my dad and their friends and God knows how many people that was involved in this, okay?
So your dad was taking a
It was a-
huge risk by having this guy.
Oh, yeah, my mom, I finally heard my mom fussing at my dad about this, you know, that wanted to make sure nobody can hear it, you know, kind of whispering that you don't want to do that, you know.
Just go with
Let's
it.
not- just don't do that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Let him go somewhere else, you know, because it's too dangerous for us, you know.
She's been through so much already.
Yeah,
Bless her
she
heart.
went through it.
Yeah.
She didn't want to lose my dad again.
Yeah.
And anyway, they used to always fight about that.
Ah.
And that was going on for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, after that, that whole thing somehow got busted up because somehow the company stepped into it or something, that somebody squealed or something. I don't know what happened.
Of those little secret meetings they were having, somebody leaked
Well,
something.
see, what happened one day is the troops, what they call AVH guys or whatever they were, which is like a secret police and all that, flooded the town, and then they already had lists
Wow.
of who to pick
You're
up and all
coming through.
that, and then picked up a bunch of people, you know, and then of course, like under any Stalinism, you know, they just disappear. So we just, and one of it, of course, every one of it they had to make some kind of accusation.
Okay.
And one of it, I remember one of my dad's friends, that they was accusing him of having a gun, because he was against the law to have
Right.
a gun.
Right.
So anyway, and then so they came out to his house, I think another day, a different day, and then went straight back to the haystack.
You found that because you were walking home a different way home
Well,
through the farms?
I knew about that, you know, because I used to always, when I go to my grandma's house, I don't want to go all the way around a corner on the street there. I go through the fence, jump the fence there.
Right,
So
right.
I go through their property there.
Mm-hmm.
And one night, I remember that there was some flashlights there with people with some flashlights and stuff, you know. And then they was just kind of whispering to each other there.
Sweet, over there, hon.
And then I saw him, and I thought it was that guy. I didn't know. I knew it wasn't the guy who lived there. Okay,
They were out there
it
messing
was
around.
somebody else. Not only messing around, I saw him sticking a gun into that haystack.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then well, I thought maybe it was one of his friends or something, you know, but that wasn't the case. What they did is they framed him.
Yeah.
That's when that gun that they stuck in there, see, and next day they came out, and then they went straight back there digging around, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, we find a gun, you know.
See.
So there he went.
Off he
They had to
goes.
have a excuse
Mm-hmm.
to take him away, see.
Right.
So I believe he got 15 or 18 years.
Wow.
But anyway, he was gone. But there's a lot of, one of my, well, close to my family was one of my brother-in-laws, well, and my uncle,
Okay.
more like an uncle, I guess, a great uncle or something. But anyway, he got picked up, and
Remember what the excuse was?
I didn't even know he was involved in it,
Okay,
you know,
I
or
see.
anything, or, you know, I only knew that my dad, and I know my dad and his friend and this old fella, you know, that guy, that American guy,
Right.
the rest of it I didn't know anything about, you know, because when they go have a meeting, they don't have it in our house.
Yeah, right.
They go somewhere else.
Yeah, yeah.
So I didn't know who else was involved. All I know is they picked up a bunch of guys from a town that some of it just died in prison, you
Right.
know.
So now you as a young man, now you're starting to become like a teenager, you're a young man. What did the young men talk when you're talking about all this stuff going on? You hear about this person taken and that person taken. What's the talk from a young man?
Oh, into each other, you know, we make jokes and things, you know, but you know, but you don't never want to say things very loud because that was a thing about communism, that you gotta watch what you're saying. So you can get hurt.
So pretty much everybody just hushed about everything.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not something you got around and talked
Yeah,
about.
and one day, I don't know what happened after they picked up all those people there, and somebody went through town at night and painted on our wood fences
Okay.
up and down town, you know, to death to the communists and all
Wow.
that kind of stuff. I
Nice.
remember that.
Hey.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know what. There was so many things was so confusing. So many things happening in there politically that, of course, everybody was talking. You know that well. You know, America gonna help us. You know, and then things gonna change. You know.
Right.
That the government will be overthrown, you know, in Hungary, get the Russians out and all
Right.
that.
Right.
That was going on for a long time.
Wow. Now you had when did you go to trade school?
In
You were 12?
no, I was 14.
14. Okay. So you went to trade school now. This is the peak of when communism is really getting.
Oh yeah,
Pretty,
that was- communism was going strong, and you know, well, that's one thing I can thank him for it. You know that I had the opportunity, you know, to
They made that opportunity
get out.
available.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So because my dad used to always tell me that, well, don't stay with this what I'm doing because there's no future in it, because farming is no longer, you know, something you can make a living
I
at.
see.
So find something else, and if you can, find something that you can support yourself in a school or whatever wherever you're going, because I cannot support you because, you know, 5
Okay.
kids at home, okay?
Okay. Right.
So anyway, and this was a good opportunity for me that this trade school was set up in such a way that 3 days a week I was going in the shop, you know,
Right.
working, and we was making parts,
Okay.
which
Tool and die
we
maker.
got, well, yeah, learning a machinist
Okay.
trade.
Machinist.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the next 3 days a week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we was in school learning about what we learned in a
Okay.
shop,
Okay.
or vice versa, you know.
Right. Right.
That we got the education on being a machinist and tool and die maker, you know,
Yeah.
what you can do with it, and what, you know, that a kind of education that you can never get it here in America in
Yeah,
a machine
right.
shop, because they just throw you over there and say, okay, go ahead,
Right.
you know, I'll show
Right.
you how.
Right.
But there's a lot more to that.
You had the
because
theory behind
You
it.
gotta know how to calculate the RPM for a stainless steel of so and so amount of chrome in it and all that. They did teach you all that, you know,
Right.
that
Right. I
the
see.
details of it. Okay,
Wow.
so and how to sharpen your tool for that. What
Okay.
kind of a rake angle you gotta have on a tool,
Wow.
and you know, and all that stuff. And then when you're cutting a gear on a milling machine there, and what's the formula you gotta use when you're
Okay.
changing out a gear, because they purposely let us use some of those old lathes, because the technology was such that they had some new lathes now that had an automatic gear changer on it, but no, they didn't let us to learn on that.
Uh-huh.
They wanted us to learn on the old machines there, where you know what makes it click. Why is that chasing 18 threads per inch,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and what does it take? Okay? Then you got a metric lake, and what gears you have to put on there.
Right,
Okay?
right.
And that's how you have to graduate, because all those you have to take a test on.
Wow.
So they give you a very good background education on that, you know, how
Okay.
to do it. I mean, you don't know all of it by the time you get out, but you have a pretty good feel.
You had a good feel.
Yeah.
Now, were you given communist education as well? Did they give you propaganda type of things?
That stuff goes with it, you know. It's just kind of a
Did you chant slogans or anything like that, or
no. There's no chanting in there. In fact, we joke about communism and all that in the school there, you know.
Okay.
And I don't know if there was there was one guy that his dad was a communist, so he really believed in it. And we joke with him.
Oh, you teased him about it.
Teased
Okay.
him about it, you know,
Okay,
all
interesting.
that, but that's you know, with kids, that's not that kind of a.
It wasn't that big of a thing.
Not a big a deal. But
Very interesting.
or you know, or wake you up if you did because this was a school that you live in there.
Right.
Okay?
You lived actually in there, resident.
Yeah. If you are good and do things right, and then you may get a pass, you know, for Saturday, Sunday, or maybe just for Sunday.
Okay.
You go home see your parents or something.
Okay. Okay.
So you in there 24 hours a day, and then some nights they come in because somebody did something wrong, you know.
Okay.
And then first they ask, okay, who did it? Because nobody wants to blow nobody in.
Right.
Okay, everybody outside. They start putting their shoes on. And no shoes, and there was snowing outside.
Okay. Okay.
Get out there, and then we'll find out who did it. So we get out there, and then we get in line there, and then jogging and all that, you know. While these two guys in there, we could see them through the window, throwing pillars and bed sheets. I mean, they just tear up a whole place.
Oh wow.
Mattresses and everything everywhere, you know. And after that, said, okay, back in there. So we go back in there. You got 5 minutes to make up your bed.
Oh no.
And you don't even know where your bed sheets
Right,
are.
right.
And, you know.
Right.
But or sometimes they come in 3 o'clock in the morning. They said, "There's American paratroopers landed behind the so and so hill.
I see.
Let's go find them because somebody did something wrong." See.
Okay. Okay.
So then we march out there. You know, of course.
Nothing
there
was
were
ever
no
there.
paratroopers or nothing.
Huh.
But it was, of course, it was under a communist system. You know.
Interesting. Now, one thing we forgot, during the war, when the Germans were there and everything, there were some times where some Jews were being hidden. Is that right?
Oh yeah. Well, at some part after World War II broke out, that what happened is all of a sudden the Jews started disappearing.
Right.
You know, nobody knows what happened to them. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And of course they were just harsh talking about it, you know, that the Germans picking up a Jews.
Right. Right.
So, and there's a lot of them that went through these wine cellars there because there's a, what do you call it when there's a bunch of cellars connected?
Interconnected. Yeah.
Yeah, they interconnected cellars there that you go in one and you could come out on the other side of a town, other side of a hill there to another cellar, you know. So I remember that there's a lot of times all these strange people with grandpa and some of his friends, you know. They bringing them in there, they go to the back of a cellar there, but they never go out.
Right.
And I was wondering what in the world happened, because I even went back there and never could find anybody.
They're going in, but they're not coming
They're
out.
all coming in, none of them ever go out. you
Right.
know. So, and I didn't know anything about this until this last time I was back there. When Ilona was sick, you know.
Mhm.
And we finally, my brother told me that I know the wine cellar you're talking about, you know, where you all was. You know? So we went down there, sure enough, our owners, well, these were the sons of what the owners was back then. you know,
Right.
But they owned wine cellars, you know.
Right.
And we talked about that and everything. So he said, come back here, I'll show you. So he
Wow.
showed me those trap doors and things, you know, that
I
they roll
see.
away a barrel and there's an opening there into the next cellar, see.
Amazing.
But you would have to move that barrel there, you know,
Right.
and usually they have a tap on that barrel running wine and everything.
Right.
So,
Right.
and a lot of times the Germans come in there, you know, and then they say, well, we're checking for Jews, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So they go through the whole cellar there and they never did find nobody.
Wow.
They just go out, you know.
And they had snuck
of
through
course,
to the other tunnel.
They could have
there.
shot my grandpa's for that, you know,
Yeah. Right.
but they never did find anything.
Wow.
You know. But God knows how many Jews that escaped through there, because by the time they got on the other side of town there,
Mm-hmm.
and then from there somebody else got him somewhere else, you know, that
Mm-hmm.
you know, into safety somewhere else.
They had a connection somewhere
Yeah.
else, maybe.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I didn't know anything about, you know, how they did it, or I didn't even know about those escape routes. All I knew is I just couldn't figure it out. Where is these people going, you know? They're
Yeah.
coming in but don't go out.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Wow. Okay. Let's take a pause right there just a second.